I've been waiting to be angelic for so long.
All you have to do is decide to move back to LA.
It happens, and I'm surprised how excited I was to come back here. Yeah, I love New York and I know how to live there, but my house is here and I was so thrilled to come back. But like right when I got off the plane, I was in traffic like immediately. Immediately, I'm like, why did I come back? Because my cats are here. I was almost going to sell this house, but I literally, the first thing I thought when I was going to sell the house, like, but where will the cats live? I have to keep the house. It's their house. I like being back, but I've only been back 3 days. So you caught me at a good time. Talk to me in 3 weeks. I'm going out of my mind.
Well, you must be going out of your mind with all of the nice responses you're getting to WTF, your new podcast.
Yes, I'm very excited about the reaction because it's international. It's coming from everywhere, and the best part about it is comics like doing it. And a little secret I'll share with you, only because you're here and you have a camera, is that one of the main reasons at this point in my life that I like doing the podcast is I like talking to people that make me laugh. And I've been doing this long enough to have a pretty long list of those people. So when I have them, like if I have Nick Kroll, which you watched, I, I just, I like being, I like to laugh. And that's a new thing for me. It's relatively new.
That reminds me. One of the things that I think there's a real joy to listening to WTF, and I wonder if the show that you had just done, Scorching the Earth, if that really did kind of literally scorch the earth for you and allow you to kind of rebuild yourself from the ground up.
Well, I think it did. I think that getting that stuff out and being honest about the divorce and my anger issues and Fonda, just wait a minute about my. I think it did purge me of a lot of stuff, and I think this is really the first time that I've been alone in a long time, and I kind of like it. So that's a new thing. So maybe now I'm finally free to actually enjoy myself.
Do you find it brings a different element to your conversations on WTF versus Break Room Live or Air America
Well,
or
to be out of the world of politics, of political talk, is a tremendous relief for me. Yeah, I've never been a political comic per se. I've always been sort of a social satirist, cultural commentator, but just a fairly aggressive comic. So it becomes sort of a weight on your back to have to talk about politics. It'll infuse itself into my conversations if necessary, but to not have to is excellent. And also the difference between this and a lot of what I've done, it's very funny to talk to these people that have known me forever, and now like you notice that like I've seemed to have taken somewhat of a turn in terms of my peace of mind, and they all have these stories that they're now comfortable when we're on the air to tell me, like oh god, when I first met you it was a fucking nightmare, and so I do a lot of apologizing.
what, do you find that happens even more with the two live versions of the podcast that you've done for a live
Well,
audience?
that where there was the Greg Barrett moment and the Chris Hardwick moment, where everybody has this story about meeting me if they've known me a long time, where I was inevitably or ultimately or whatever the word is drunk or aggravated or angry, and when they tell me the story, I can't deny it because I know it sounds like me, but so much of that shit, so much of defensiveness and pride and anger comes from bullshit. So hopefully as you get older, you have an opportunity to kind of mend these ways.
You have been mentioning on Twitter finding moments of clarity.
Yes, which my friend Sam Cedar said that always makes me nervous when you have that. Well, life is short, and at some point you've got to you realize like, well, I should enjoy some of it. As I get older, I'm like, this window's closing, and that's not cynical or negative or even gloomy, but like, I've got to let some things go and relax a little bit so I can at least, have a bit of a good time as opposed to like chasing this or that or thinking something else is going to happen. So yeah, so those happen. That happens for 10 minutes at a time, an hour. I'm trying to spread those out a little bit.
I guess living on a hill in the sunshine over Los Angeles helps.
It does help until you start. You got to get out though. Anything nice if you isolate in it will become horrible. But yeah, it's great being back here. I hate when I've gotten very intolerant of people comparing New York and LA because there's no comparison. I mean this is just a different way of life, and the real problem is you don't have to engage with people. So that can be a liability after a while if because you live in your head, and the head's a fine place, but you should get out.
And live in your car. And
The car, yeah, as well, and on the phone. Whereas in New York, it's like you're in it. So they're both good, but I'm relieved to be back here.
Have you figured out where you go from here, or?
I'm very busy with this, and I'm very engaged with the podcast. So it's it's a job. It's not making me much money, but it's exciting to be part of a medium that is actually new. Like as many as there are out there, that thing hasn't blown up yet, and it hasn't. It's got to be where it's going to go. Radio's going to be there. There's no way around it. So that's exciting, and also like just talking to like Nick and everybody has been great, and the comics have been great, and I'm just happy they want to do it. And I've got a pilot presentation deal with Comedy Central, so I've got to work on that. We're going to try and shoot some stuff by the end of the year, and then probably do the presentation um, early next year.
Is that going to be based on this in part, or
it's titled WTF, but it's not the same show as the podcast. It's more of a host-driven, not talk show format, but commentary show format with some film elements. And I just hired on. We just hired on Tom Johnson to be the head writer guy, and we're starting work on that. I've got a conference call today, so I'm pretty excited about that. That's going to take some work, and then I'm going to Atlanta this weekend, the Laughing Skull Lounge, and then to Florida for Thanksgiving. So I don't know what the future holds in terms of how I continue to make a living, but creatively I'm very very well occupied.
Well, if you're watching this on YouTube or however you have the internet where you are, please go see Marc Maron in
Georgia. Next, that's 19th, 20, 21, and 22. You can also see me in Florida if you know where my mother lives. And you can always go to WTFpod.com for all of the WTF related goods. How was that? Good plug?
Sounds great, Mark. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean.